Welcome to the 6th Vicente Fox Presidential Dinner. Welcome to all of you. Continue, please, eating. I do have quite a few people that I would like to thank. I would like to mention, though, first of all, that if you don't know, in Dallas, we now have a new Consul General. His name is Jose Octavio Trip Villanueva. Sir, would you please stand up with your wife, Adriana? We welcome you to Dallas-Fort Worth, sir. We have other city officials, I believe, and I'll be telling you about them over the course of my few minutes up here, but I especially would like to recognize Mary Louise Garcia, our county clerk. Where is she? Mary Louise? My co-founder of HLA, Hispanic Leadership Alliance, George P. Bush, could not be here, but J.R. Hernandez is representing him. He helped create this whole series, and we're very grateful for that. This is our 6th presidential dinner. We have had, just to refresh our memories, we've had Vicente Fox of Mexico, obviously, and he has come with all of the presidents. He has brought all of the presidents to us. From Nigeria, we had Obasanjo. From Canada, we had Chrétien. From Colombia, we had Uribe. From Spain, we had Zapatero. And today we have, of course, the former president from Guatemala, Vinicio Cerezo. I have mentioned this before, but I'd like to mention again that Vicente Fox, whom I had worked for when he was president and governor, has created a presidential library, the Centro Fox, in Guanajuato. He told me about how he was going to be bringing former presidents to his Centro Fox to speak. And I said, well, many of them are going to fly right through Dallas-Fort Worth, probably on American Airlines. Why don't they spend the night here and speak in our wonderful city of Fort Worth? And he said, well, Juan, if you can make it happen, you rarely are able to get anything going, but maybe if you can. So I was on my way to Guatemala precisely, and I emailed our Chancellor Boschini. As you know, I am a froggy. I got my PhD here from TCU, and I emailed Betsy Price, our new mayor at that time. Both of them answered me on a Sunday night, all the way to Guatemala. Of course, Juan, we want a presidential series. The city is yours, the university is yours, no bureaucracy, and we have made it happen. The individual who has really worked this from this side, apart, of course, from our wonderful mayor, but is our dear Provost Noel Donovan, and I'd like to give him a big hand, really. Thank you very much, Provost. Here from TCU, I'd like to recognize wonderful, wonderful work from Terry Gardner, who works for the Provost, Nancy Stiles, and Margaret Kelly, who has put up with me, you wouldn't believe. Thank you very much. Our Congresswoman Kay Granger and Mayor Betsy Price could not be here today with us. A little bit going on in Washington, as you've heard, and a lot going on also yesterday and today here in Fort Worth, but they are behind this event and send you their greetings. The World Affairs Council helped us jumpstart this. And even though in this last one, TCU totally honored us by sponsoring this dinner, they will have, of course, more events with us. But Jim Falk and Rachel Vogel and Jocelyn Lancaster have just been incredible. We could not have done it without them. The Fort Worth Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, everyone, of course, remembers Rosita. She, right from the beginning, supported the creation of this. And Azucena Resendiz, who is with us here today, who's the new President CEO of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, has taken it to another level, and we're so grateful to her. The Worthington Hotel has been wonderful in donating the rooms. Fusion Production has filmed all of the presentations. You can see them on YouTube. Yes. We have a statewide in Fort Worth host committee. Sergio de Leon participated in this, Rice Tilley, Alberto Cárdenas, Dick Ensweiler, Steve Murrin, El Gran Vaquero, mi hermano, the mayor of Cowtown, and Julie Johncox. They headed the host committee. We had a steering committee with, yes, please. With the steering committee, we had Juan Hernandez Jr., we had Greg Wordle from BNSF, and Greg has just been incredible. Greg is here at 6 in the morning, leaves at 2 in the morning. I don't know how BNSF continues working without him, but he has just been incredible. Please give Greg a hand. I really this is so special to me in a personal way. As you know, my mother went to Guanajuato to study, met a law student, my mom from Fort Worth, married this law student from San Miguel de Allende, and so I've had one foot in Guanajuato and one foot in Texas and in Fort Worth all my life. And this meeting here at my alma mater, to have both of my worlds come together is just wonderful for me. When I started calling some of the companies on behalf of this series, on behalf of President Fox, to see if some of the companies here would support, I really believe that every single one that we called supported. I'm trying to think of one that didn't. And I'd like to go just through the list, and we can applaud to all of them at the end. But of course, the World Affairs Council, of course, Texas Christian University, UST Global, Gateway Global Ministries, Interceramic, Lala, Sid Richardson Foundation, Amway, Brassfield Winery, Bernie Maynard and Parsons LLP, Jones Day, Logic Nation, Northwood University, Tony Rivero, Alberto Cárdenas of Vincent and Elkins, American Airlines, the Amon Carter Foundation, Baylor University, BNSF Railway, City Commercial Bank, the Coca-Cola Company, Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, Anthony Finch and Yadira Cepeda, Fusion Productions, General Motors, Heinz and Boone, only have 3 more pages, Lockheed Martin, Prism Hotels, Texas Capital Bank, the Texas Credit Union League, now changed its name to Cornerstone Credit Union League, TIAA Credit Financial Services, the Worthington Renaissance, Fort Worth Hotel, and Shella Enterprises made all of this happen. Please give them a big, warm thank you. Some wonderful things have been birthed from this presidential series. On the one hand, we've had companies move to the Dallas-Fort Worth area that came to the dinner and have created jobs in this area. Also, we've had companies from the United States, including from this area, move to Guanajuato. One of the incredible stories, Vicente Fox, I heard him call it the miracle last Sunday. A company called UST Global has gone to Guanajuato, and they have now, please correct me, John Gustafson, close to 1,000 jobs in a year. Is that correct? Of IT services. This is really exciting. In a sense, that's what it's all about, creating opportunities, creating leadership, and blessing both countries at the same time. We're just very excited about it. Another one of the items that have been birthed, and this has been very recent, just in the last few weeks, but TCU, and I think it's okay if I say it, Provost, is going to be creating the Academy of Tomorrow next year. And as part of that, a course has been created in the spring that will be using the conferences from the presidents we're here, including yours, President Cerezo. It's a course on leadership. Riddlesberger is here, and we're going to co-teach the course. Where's Professor Riddlesberger? Right here, yes. He's an expert in presidents. We'll be using the book, The Presidential Difference. And the provost is telling me this is a pilot course. If it works out, the idea is to have it every year, but open it up through new technologies so the entire world can listen to these presidents speak. We'll have more presidents, of course, coming, either through some electronic media. Maybe Bart Borland can help us with Logic Nation, or see ways that we can bring it through different medium. we don't want the series to die, and there have been several, as I say, different activities that have been birthed from it. So you'll be hearing from us. From BNSF, they told me yesterday, so you mean you're going to ask us for more money, Juan? And I said, well, most likely. Maybe we'll need a building or something one of these days, and we will be calling on you. Thank you very much, because you have really been the ones who've made it happen. I would especially like now, if you would please thank all of those who are serving at our tables, the VIPs, the very important paisanos. You know that one of my passions is immigration reform, and many of us have friends and family members. Even as I arrived, some were telling me, when is immigration reform going to happen? You are the reason why we're here. Thank you very much. President Fox, in just a moment, is also going to be telling you about a program that was birthed from this series. But before he comes up, I would please like to ask our Provost, Donovan, to please join me and introduce President Vicente Fox.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Texas Christian University. We're very pleased to see you all here again as our friends. And we welcome you as friends from all over the place. It's such a privilege and a pleasure for me to stand here and realize that I'm talking to people who at their essence want to make the world a better place than it is. And I have learnt much from the presidential series that President Fox has presented to us. Many things of substance, many things I did not know. I've learned one thing that these leaders give us. They give us a sense of urgency, that there's a lot to be done and we haven't got a long time to do it. For example, President Cerezo, following a period in his presidency which was quite unhappy, promised his people that in 500 days he would give them democracy, and he did. A sense of urgency is important in the way we treat the world. For our world is growing fast. We are now past 7 billion, heading to 8 billion by the year 2030. The challenges facing us are enormous. We have a long, long way to go, and we don't have much time to really make a difference. I was down at Centro Fox just over a week ago, watching what the president is doing there with his presidential library. And on the way back, my wife, she who must be obeyed, my version of she who must be obeyed, let me sit next to the window on our little American Eagle plane, so I could actually see the scenery. And I'm a geologist, so what I was looking at out of the window were the bones of Mexico, the geological bones. When you have some geology, you can work it all out. It's a lot of fun. And I was having a great deal of fun as we flew out of Mexico and started across into Texas, where the geology is a lot less interesting. And all of a sudden, I saw a line running across the land, and I realized it was a fence. And I found myself asking myself, why? Why do we erect fences? And our hearts are open and pure, and our spirit is such that we would want to change the world and make it a better place. Those of you who are here tonight, I think, share that vision. And so when I ask why, I think that what we have to learn to do is to play to our highest aspirations, not sink to our lowest. We have to look at our problems square in the face and say, we have talent, we know what we're doing, we are going to make things better. And I say that in the context of what I saw at Centro Fox. Because at Centro Fox, I had the pleasure for the first time in my life of staying in a hacienda. And it was a Saturday night. And my wife and I were quietly sleeping. And when all of a sudden there was a clang, 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 and a bell rang. And we leapt out of bed thinking there was a fire. It was in fact the bell for Mass. Somewhat different. I learned some things on that trip. But later on in the day, President Fox showed us around his presidential library. And instead of describing buildings, let me just tell you about what I heard that I think is so important in the quest to bring down fences and barriers between us. He says to lots and lots of young people from Mexico, you may have been born poor, but you don't have to stay poor. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to take responsibility for your lives, yourselves, your country, and the world in which you live? And it is a tremendous and powerful message. It's one that we have to bring to all our young people. We try to do it here at TCU. Across this city, our high schools try to do that. And for those of you who are not present this morning, listening to our two presidents talk to the young high school students of Fort Worth, you would have learned that passion in the defense of individual liberty and freedom is not a vice, it is very much a virtue. And you would have been proud of the questions that these young people were asking our two presidents. Some parts of our education system work and work very well. I come from a country called Scotland, which is a small country. We like to make a mighty noise with bagpipes and things like that. And we've had people in our past who have said things that have always impressed me. And my favorite quotation comes from a Scottish author called John Buchan. We can only pay our debt to the past by putting the future in debt to us. I'll repeat, we can only pay our debt to the past by putting the future in debt to us. We owe it to so many people who have come before us. We want those who follow us to recognize us as well. And in order to do that, we must pay our debts. We have to pay our debts to the world in which we live. We have to break down the barriers. We have to realize that many of the old rhythms, the old patterns are changing forever. A mere glance at technology tells you that. But think about the currents that are shifting underneath us now. We are, in this state of Texas, restless. We want to make things happen. I saw the same thing when I went to see Vicente Fox at Central Fox. We are restless. We want to make things happen. We cannot sit still and sit on our butts and do nothing. The world demands that we do more. And tonight we're going to listen to two people who have walked the walk. We are in their debt. They have made a significant difference in the worlds in which they live. And it is my very great pleasure to ask President Fox to come to the podium now and start an evening of discovery with us. President Fox.
Muchísimas gracias, Robert. Muchas gracias. Bien, muchísimas gracias. Muy buenas noches. Bon appétit. Buen provecho. Y difficult for me to say the joy that Martha and I get every time we come to this part of the United States. So American, so Mexican, so Latin. There is really that diversity, and it's the way to confirm that migration is a full asset to nations. And I want to start by rendering my salute to Monica, to Lolita, to Lupita, to Santiago, all of them here, and many of them in this university, and many of them migrants in Texas and all over the United States. Latins, Hispanics, Mexicans, Salvadorians. To them, my admiration, my respect, and to tell them that they are my heroes, hard-working people, loyal to this nation, that have contributed enormously to the greatness of United States, to the greatness of Texas, and this DFW, greater city. Also, before I introduce our great guest of tonight, I'd like to call your attention to a booklet that you have on your tables that talks about this master program at Centro Fox, which is one of the blossoms of the presidential series. Now moving towards the academy on TCU and to this master's program in academy at Centro Fox. That's a unique master program. It's only run at Centro Fox, associated with the creator of mind mapping, with a great faculty coming from all over the world. And it's a master program addressed as making each one of us leaders of the greatest capacity to do and change, as well as to perform. This morning we were here in the same room with students from high schools from this university. And it's very rewarding to sit with students in a university. It's like coming back to the fountain of youth. It's like coming back to the fountain of knowledge. It's like coming back to nourish ourselves with optimism to the future. This new generation, fortunately, is being trained and educated with compassion, love, commitment, so that those who have the opportunities and the privilege to be in universities of excellence like this one do commit themselves to work for those other kids, especially in Latin America, in Africa, and other regions of the world, where they don't have the same kind of opportunities. And this is the real reward in life, is doing things for others, is working passionately to bring in opportunities to those who do not have them. And this is the shortcut to happiness in this life. Today, we're going to listen from men that made history in Central America, in Latin America, and is an example to the world. A passionate man, a leader that decided one day that he had to change what he had in his own nation. And this is what leaders are all about. Are people ready to change? People ready to bring justice? And in his case, to bring democracy, to bring freedom to Guatemala and Central America. Latin America, as you know, went through the 20th century in hands of dictators, military dictators, personal dictators, authoritarian governments, messianic leaders like the Evitas, the Perons, and lately the Chavezes and others. And this commitment with democracy and freedom is what guided President Vinicio Cerezo to act on the arena of change within Guatemala and Central America. As I told those kids this morning, they were not born when all of this happened, only 20 years ago, or slightly more than that. Guerrilla, violence, death spread around Central America. There seemed to be that there was no future for all those millions of people in that region of the world. Leaders can change, and leaders do change in the world. They bring justice, they bring democracy, and they bring freedom. So please, Vinicio, come join us here to hear your message, your story, and then we all will have the opportunity to a Q&A session to listen your comments and to speak about this wonderful story of sacrifice, story of heroism, story of conflict, death, violence, but fortunately today Guatemala is a new nation with a great future, same as Latin America. Please, Vinicio.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Really, it's a pleasure. Well, I really appreciate those words, President Fox. And I would like to thank you the opportunity to come here where the real West began. Because I was always inspired by this history of United States. The West is always a kind of adventure for a better future, and a kind of adventure for looking for better life, opportunities, and richness for the common people of it. Let me tell you that these kind of facts in the history of the United States inspire many of us to try to do the same kind of things in our country. Go, look for the future, take some risks with the security of that if we can take those risks and we survive and succeed, well, we are going to have a better country, a country of opportunities like United States is. Now we are always inspired by the American dream, but we are thinking in Central America and Latin American dream. We have done some things in our country, like the President Fox says. In the 80s, we decided to stop the confrontation, the Cold War, lead the war, an ideological confrontation that push us, an ideological confrontation that make us confront some against the others and provoke a lot of killings, a lot of problems, and we found that it was really a bad business for us, that confrontation. And we decided to work in favor of, to create a better society in terms of tolerate each other, talk about the future with our enemies, stop the war and begin to build a new society that could be like the developed countries and the countries where the democracy leads them to a better place to live. And that's why at that time I invited other presidents of Central America to talk in a small country, a small place in Central America. The name was Esquipulas. And in that place, a small country between Honduras, Salvador, and Guatemala, the presidents from different ideologies, different positions and political parties, we decide that we have to make an agreement in favor of one proposal: stop the war. Second proposal, establish democracy. And third, improve institutionalization of our country and leave our old tradition of thinking in leaders who can change the world, like some others in the Caribbean places. And we decide that the agreements, the institutions, and working together, we could change our history and establish for the first time in our country democracy, and we succeed because now we have democracy for 27 years, the first time in our history. We stop the war. We begin another era in that country. And also we understood that we should work together to improve the economy of our countries and to change the structure of the economy. Because if we wanted to make the democracy sustainable, if we wanted to make the institutionality work in favor of the people, we also had to develop our region and to increase our richness, increase the opportunities for the people. And that's why we begin a Central American agreement to make a common market for all the countries, to make a bigger region that could be more competitive in this globalized world. Because we realized that if we didn't do that, we were going to fail, because democracy is sustainable if give the people opportunities, regions, and welfare. But now, at this time, after we succeed in establishing democracy, we stop the war. We are talking together, looking for a better future. We also realize that we have not done all the things we need to permit to the people participate and be included in the richness of those countries. And that's why we are talking now about a new kind of development for Central America. And we are not going to find the sugar or the lemonade. We have to see how the developed countries have done their own things to give the people richness. We are not going to look for a new invention. Everything has happened in this world. And then we have to take the experience of the other countries to see what we have to do. And that's why we are talking about investment in the infrastructure. We are talking about middle-sized entrepreneurs. We are talking about banking to give the people loans and to work together. We understand, because every country that tried to permit or to enforce the state to make everything, we are going to fail, like some other countries in Europe and other parts of the world have failed when the state want to do everything the people need. We share the thinking, a very important philosopher, a French philosopher, who says we have to open the market. The market is possible to create, and we have to improve the state we need. And if we understood that if we can do both advices, the state we need and the market we can improve, we are going to succeed. And then that's why we are trying in this moment to work together to get those goals. In my perception, to do that, I found the Esquipulas Foundation, and I invite some other presidents of Latin America to work together in favor of these ideas in Central America. The Esquipulas Foundation is trying to work with the Central American and Caribbean presidents, Central American presidents, Caribbean presidents, to prepare a model of development who is going to depend on the foreign investments and the political decisions to accept those investments and to create a rule of law, agreements in all regions to give the people confidence to invest in Central America. Because we also understood that we can do our things just in our own. We need the world. We need the people. We need you to go to Central America to invest and to make those countries be developed and with happiness and richness, because you really want to diminish the amount of people traveling to the United States to look for better ways and to better and happiness, to better situation and happiness. We have to go together to Central America, invest there, and give the people opportunities to maintain them in their countries, because there is going to be the opportunities to work in favor of them. This is the thing we are working for. This is the thing I am working for, because I also understood in my mind, when I leave the office, I says, well, I offered the people a lot of things, but I couldn't do everything. I did some of them. I established democracy. I changed the government, the military governments for civilian governments. I improved the peace agreement, but I didn't have time enough to finish my job and my commitments. And that's why I am working with President Fox. And I really thank you, President Fox, for giving me the opportunity to talk with the people here in the United States, in the university, and with all the people who can do many things for us. We don't need gifts. We need investment, confidence, and working with us to give the people richness, to give the people opportunities, to consolidate democracy, consolidate peace, because in that way, I am sure we are going to be better partners of the United States. And never we are going to accuse the United States like imperialist. And we don't want to listen the people watching us like the background of the United States. We want to be partnered in development to make the continental Latin America and United States partners for a better future and better world for all of us. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I am really appreciate the TCU, the university, the Christian University of Texas, giving us this opportunity, because I am really sure that with all of you are going to make a better Central America a better Latin America, and certainly a better world working together with all of you, United States and Latin America, in front of the world. Thank you very much.
Well, that is a passionate message, and shows that we, leaders like you are, we never end up building and growing our leadership. And we have learned also that there is life after the presidency, and a lot of things to do to work for this better world. And it's clear on his message that peace is not only the absence of war. Peace and harmony come about when there is justice, when there are equal opportunities to everybody, and where there are possibilities of accomplishing our dreams. And this is the task, this is the challenge that President Vinicio is after with his foundation, Esquipulas. And Esquipulas is growing throughout Central America, going down south, Latin America, but we both are build bridges. And I think it's very important with a community of leaders like we have here today, that we think about the enormous possibilities that we can develop when we work together as a continent, when we extend our trade agreements, when the case of Central America, that they have a replica of the European Union. They not only trade among themselves, but they also are working towards building a common market to all those nations. I think that the opportunities to be here are key and crucial to us, because never like in the past, this nation has to regain its strong leadership throughout the world. And in globalization, each nation needs to be present in every market in the world. And really, believe me, the opportunities of investment in Latin America, after we got out of dictators, after we threw them out, now Latin America has a pace of growth of well over 5%. And for the first time, we're building middle classes, we're building consumers, and we're building opportunities. I think this opportunity here is crucial to the future and to make out of this 21st century the century we all have dreamed about. So thank you, Presidente. I'm going to ask the first question, and then it's your turn. We have a new problem today, Mexico and Central America. And it has to do with violence, has to do with crime, has to do with drugs. And this phenomena, this violence, comes because this huge market of drugs here in the United States. And we don't find the way out of this trap where we are. It's hurting our capacities of growth, it's affecting our tourism, it's affecting foreign investment to the region, and we need to clearly find a way out. What do you think about this problem, Presidente? What can we do? I understand the actual active president in Guatemala is very positive on the idea of at least open the dialogue, open the discussion about the problem.
Well, we have to accept the reality of our countries. And the reality is that in some countries in Central America, because Central America have the destiny of to be the bridge between the two continents of America. The real bridge for business, trade, and tourism and everything. Also have to be the bridge between the two oceans. And if we can working hard and investing in infrastructure, we are going to get that position that will give us the opportunity to convert Central America in a very economic and a political, a strategic area in the world. It's good for us. But the people who make traffic, drugs, and to organize criminality in our world realize that, and then convert Central America in the way to make this kind of traffic. We realize then that we have to do at least three things. First, we have to improve an agreement with the United States to talk about how we are going to deal with. We don't want another war. And we are falling down in another war because we have to confront the people who is dealing with the traffic of drugs. Then we have to talk about what we are going to do together. We have to take into account the United States, Mexico, Colombia, and all the countries in the Caribbean place, talking about this subject. And the president of Guatemala really proposed this discussion, and it is correct. We only want to, I don't know how do you say in English, but depenalize? No.
Depenalize.
Depenalize the discussion about this subject. Depenalize, because we don't want to talk like, because we have the experience of the traditional war in Central America, that the military people doesn't want to talk about peace process happening in Colombia in this moment. Some of the people in Colombia doesn't want that the President Santos talk about peace. They want to continue doing war. But our experience our experience tells us that that kind of war never finished fighting. We had to talk about some other ways. And we are thinking that about the drugs, we have to talk about some other ways. Certainly, the people who is involved in criminality, we have to prosecute them in many ways. The second thing we have to do, thinking in this, that we have to confront the criminality, is make regional agreements. We cannot do it by ourselves in each country. We have to make regional agreements, and we have to agree with the United States, Colombia, and Mexico how we are going to deal with, who is going to pay for. Because the amount of money we are spending in this confrontation is less money we have to spend. We can spend in education, health, and opportunities for the people. Then we have to make agreements about that. But there, I can tell you that despite the violence we have, even in Mexico, the country is ruling well. The countries in Central America and Mexico, they are ruling well. And we are learning about how we can deal with, and we are fixing up our system to control those people, to control corruption, because it's the most important problem in terms of government and authorities and police, corruption, but we are dealing well. And I think that we have to help some other countries like Honduras or some other who had problems to deal with, to learn how they have to deal with, because it's a problem for everybody. And this is one of the lessons I received when we discuss and to sign and to get the peace process in our countries. No one country, not the bigger country like, and most important country like the United States, can deal with those kind of problems without the support and the agreements with some other countries. We have to make agreements all together because traffic and laundry money and criminality, organized criminality, is not a problem that stayed in one country. It's international. It's in this world globalized. Well, they are more globalized than we are. And they have more money than we are. They can spend money without controls, without taxes, and without everything. Then we have to make agreements all together to resolve and to confront the problem. But the most important and the third thing we learned is that poorness and lack of opportunities for the people is the worst situation because the poor people became within the temptation of being involved in easy money for the people. We have to give them work, opportunities, and the feeling of to belong to the society to avoid that then be involved in the criminality because it's question about values. And the values of be honest, compromise with democracy, respect of the law, is you have those values with education, but also with the feeling of to be part of the society. That's why we have to work in those fields if we can resolve that big problem.
It's your turn.
We made it well.
Good evening, Your Excellency. I got a question, and you know, we live in a global village, but then we have fences and walls. You go to the Middle East, we have a war between Israel and Palestine. You come to North America, you have a war between Mexico and the United States. And we know love is proximity. The closer you are, the better the love. So what do you think, Mr. Fox and Mr. President from Guatemala, what sort of national dialogue do you need to have with your country folks so that they will realize the responsibility that crossing the border endangers their life, and what do they need to do internally in order to achieve the level of economic development to forestall illegal migration? Because these are some of the challenges that when, you know, those of us on the North American side look at and say, why can't they do the same thing we're doing on the other side? What sort of economic development growth do you need to achieve annually in a sustainable manner in order to curtail the amount of illegal immigration? And would the region on the South American side agree to a monetary union to where some of these countries begin to enhance trade amongst themselves? Thank you.
Well, one situation that be considered in this relation is income. When you see that income levels narrow down to equal citizens and families within society, things work different. And what better example than what we have here in North America? We have a border between the United States and Canada that $1 is the same as $1 Canadian dollar. And the income a worker makes in Canada is the same income that he makes in the United States. The case of Mexico, when NAFTA was launched, there was a difference of 10 to 1. That was 20 years ago. We're celebrating 20 years of NAFTA next year. Today is 5 to 1. So NAFTA has served the purpose, but not yet enough. The day that we equal income between United States and Mexico, I think we'll have a harmonious border like the one Canada and United States. And same thing happens in Europe. The best distribution of income region in the world is Europe. And that brings in the capacity even to erase borders and to open up transit and traffic all over the European Union, not even needing a passport. So development, creating and growing middle classes, equaling as much as possible income, to me would be one of the solutions to have that kind of world we all dream about.
Well, the president says about income, and it's really true. You can remember the migrations of Italians or Dutch people or German people at the beginning of the 20th century. It's because in Europe, they were having really hard times. The wars and everything's happening there. And at this time, well, again, from Spain, the people is migrating for some other countries because they don't have enough employment. And well, then in all the world, the wars, the economic crisis, and the social problems of the countries lead the people to look for opportunities in some other places. The Latin America receive English people, Italian people, German, some other kind, especially in Argentina and United States. Then it's happening all the time. That's why we are talking about improve the development in our countries to diminish the people going to other countries, because it's not an economic or political problem, it's social and humanitarian problem. Those people to arrive to the United States, they are suffering a lot of problems from every country they come. And certainly now they also have provoked for the United States problems of security, but because terrorism and everything. But then we have to begin to make agreements in between the countries. And I was making a joke this morning in the university, kind of joke, and telling them, well, you have invested in a big wall in the border of Mexico to avoid migrating people to the United States. You couldn't make it. The people go down the wall or over the wall, and they are arriving to the United States. And maybe it's better, well, look for the other solutions. It's not a question of police or security. It's a question of, take this money and to make a Marshall Plan in Latin America and invest that amount of money you invest in the world in Latin America, and you are going to diminish certainly the amount of people coming here because they are going to have jobs or small enterprise in our countries. Then that's another lesson we received from the peace process. In Central America, we have to be together to come here and to talk about the politicians and the government of the United States and the society. The problem is opportunities. We don't want to make more problems to the United States. We want to make business with the United States. And good relationships, and understand together to deal with the world, because there are enough problems in the Middle East and some other parts of the world to provoke problems between the partners of the American continent. Then we have to, that's why we are coming here, and thanks again for the President Fox, and we are going to try to continue working together to say, all of you, Latin America is no more a continent of hope like we always were. Now we are a continent of opportunities. If you invest in Latin America, you are going to gain money. And if you gain money and invest, you are going to make opportunities, jobs, and richness for the people, and then the people is going to come here, but by tourism, not like in an immigrant. And like we are. Also, let me tell you another thing. Why we want to develop Central American infrastructure and to really develop the area? Because now we realize that the Spaniards of many countries of Europe are sending us people to work in our countries, and then we need jobs to give them opportunities to immigrate again to Central America and Latin America. Because it's going to happen if Europe continue having that amount of problems and crises. They are going to look for opportunities in some other countries, United States, Mexico, Central America, and Latin America in general. Then this is a real problem. Then work together for a better world. This is the real thing, I think.
You mentioned your desire, over here. Hi. You mentioned your desire to have the United States invest in Guatemala. What are the reasons we should invest in Guatemala beyond building up jobs to have tourism with your people coming to the United States? Can you give us a few more points of why we should invest in Guatemala?
Well, it's a really good question. Well, first you have to invest in the United States, I know, and create jobs in the United States because the crisis became a big unemployment problem. But the private entrepreneurs need opportunities to go some other ways to gain more money and to give opportunities to deal with some other countries. The trade is very important for the world. This is a globalized world. Then, if the private entrepreneurs have good opportunities in Guatemala, Central America, or Latin America to make good business and to sell their product to some other countries like China or the east part of Europe or some other countries, well, you are going to do a good thing for us, diminish the amount of problems we can provoke United States, and you're going to send a message of good partners to work in that better world I was talking about. But certainly, you have to do first for your country, and second, we have to think about the others, is my perception.
I would like to know how it is that not just the chamber, but how the city of Fort Worth, how the state of Texas has reached out to you to support not just your mission, but what you've also done in exchange to help support the city of Fort Worth and the state of Texas in saying that you understand that education is key, and what is it that we can do to help promote the economic development of entrepreneurs that are traveling from Guatemala and from Mexico to truly not just immerse themselves here, but to remind them that when they do go back to their countries, because we do understand that some of them just come to make the better living for a certain time period and they go back to their countries. But how are you able to support the entrepreneur / immigrant that is focused on staying and the entrepreneur that is focused on a certain, just a very short time period here in Fort Worth?
Well, what is true to a nation and to trading between two economies, which is net wealth creation. What is true in investment either way, which is net wealth creation, is true for cities, is true for corporations, is true for individuals. I know the city of Fort Worth is intentionally promoting to attract investment. We are all trying to do the same. and we try to show our competitive differences. And we do have them, and very strong in Latin America. Look at the automobile industry. Went broke, lost their place in the market, competing with Asia and competing with Europe. GM, Chrysler, Ford had to be rescued by government. But they had their own solutions. And the solution was to nourish their competitiveness in the three economies, in Mexico, United States, and Canada. And they regained competitiveness. And look at them today. Look at GM, look at Ford, look at Chrysler. If they would have stayed stubborn in Illinois or in Michigan, they would have disappeared. So trading and mutually investing is wealth creation at the very net. Today, Guatemala or Mexico, we have trade agreements. Mexico has 43 trade agreements with 43 economies worldwide, which is about 80% of all markets in the world, which by manufacturing in Mexico, you move to all those markets with no duties, no taxes, in a very competitive situation. Productivity, quality, it's also there in Guatemala, it's also there in Mexico. And you just have to think of the need for corporations here, for medium-sized businesses, for large businesses to be present in other markets. There is not much more room for expansion here. Today, global corporations are growing in markets abroad. Look at UST Global. The most aggressive, the most talented corporation that I have met recently. Only 12 years of age. They are the fastest growing in the segment of IT. They serve 1/3 of all global Fortune 500s. And they decided that they wanted to expand because their market in the United States was getting mature and saturated. They decided to go to Mexico. And they decided to go to San Cristobal, where Central Fox is. And they decided to take the risk of investing and creating jobs. They have committed with government for 10,000 jobs, all of them with university degrees. In India, that market segment of IT is their #1 segment. Close to 1 million people work for the industry. They export $168 billion worth of talent, ideas that go through the cable, through the fiber optics, to the corporations and to the markets in the world. That's 15 times what Mexico exports of oil, just exporting brain and talent. So opportunities are elsewhere in the world. Chinese market, it's incredible. How can you get to the Chinese market, maybe manufacturing in Mexico or in Guatemala, that today has become most competitive in all kinds of products? So basically we're, as somebody said here, on this global village, but the markets are there for those who have the courage to go abroad, to invest and take risk. This investment that I just heard about GE, locomotive manufacturing, it was incredible. And this city got that miracle to be here, as well as we got the miracle of having UST Global in Guanajuato and in Mexico. And let me tell you, IT, I began to understand what is it all about. It's the last frontier on productivity, on quality, way over and above than those quality programs that we had in the past, Japanese, ISO 9000, and all those things. Today, the large corporations have discovered that there is not more productivity now on the production line, that there is not more productivity or profit in logistics of reaching markets, that the end of productivity and beyond of return to your investment is through this holistic information technology approach to run your corporations efficiently. India is going to be growing fast and long because they're using IT not only on the big corporations of India, the Tatas and others, but it has dropped down to the middle and to the small corporations that are using IT. They discovered this gold mine that corporations can enjoy today. So I would say that the message is, think about anywhere in the world, think about all the new things that we are watching on competitiveness, and think about, yes, attracting investment, but also go and invest somewhere else. Latin America is the engine of the world, together with China and India. The old engines are tired and not growing anymore. The European Union and United States. It's incredible that the world economy now has these new engines that are promoting worldwide growth. So let's tear off walls. Let's open our minds. Let's go to other markets. Let's become competitive. And let's be part of this crusade for growth and wealth that is going on in the world. Really, believe me, it's incredible. Look at Panama, growing 11 and 12% a year. Now growing more than China. Look at Colombia, averaging 6, 7, 8% growth. Look at Peru, incredible, with more than half of their population is indigenous, growing at rates of 6 and 7%. And Central America is doing the same today. So big, big opportunities are all over Latin America.
And we have free agreements with the United States, Mexico, and some other countries. And we have an agreement with Europe to send and to sell them many products that you can produce in our countries. Then competitiveness and opportunities are the reason to invest in our countries now.
El micrófono, acá. Okay,
Hi.
sorry.
I want to take a little bit different stance or a different question. Our daughter was for years a bilingual school teacher. 90 to 95% of her kids were not from the U.S. And I can't think of any greater reason to come to the U.S. than for an opportunity for your child. And these parents are working, jobs, multiple jobs, so their kids can get an education. They can't wait 20 years. They can't wait for these long time investments to be a reality when they're talking about their child and they only have a few years to improve their education. I plead ignorance to what the education programs are in your country, so I was wondering if you could talk to those and how you convince parents that they can get a quality education in their own country and that they don't have to come here to get one.
Two comments. One, we tend to see, and of course it's pretty well sustained, the promised land and the land of opportunities here in the United States. But tens of thousands of Mexicans now have gone to China or have gone to Brazil. Hundreds of thousands of Americans, of U.S. citizens, have gone to Asia, the East, India, China. So really, opportunities are everywhere. Now, in relation to school, no doubt, I always repeat and repeat again, there is only one way to change a nation in one generation, and it's through education. That's where the competitiveness and capacities of different economies and different families and people come from. It's education, it's knowledge. And fortunately today we're undergoing the third Renaissance. And I'm going to be brief on this. First Renaissance Greek with Homer, with Cicero, with Plato, with Academus, a revolution of knowledge, of thought, of culture, arts. Then Italy, the Renaissance. But today we're on the real Renaissance, which brings not only hope to the world, but the capacity for each one of us. We have more access to knowledge and to experience than anybody could have dreamed about before, each one of us. More than what Cicero had or what Einstein had, and this is what will make the big changes coming pretty soon in this world. So great that people move to U.S. universities. The real strength and capacity of this nation, it's in its universities. But there are also universities and capacity of education elsewhere in the world. So make your choice and send your kids wherever they want to go. Coming to Mexico is a great experience. Going to China is a fabulous experience. Going to Europe today, it's unique. But go on.
No, well, and Latin America is working well in terms of education. We realize from the beginning of the democratic process that we have to change how we educate the people and prepare them for the new world and the change and the globalization, and taking care about the opportunity of internet and all the means, the new ways give you to train the people. But to change the attitude and the culture of the people of our country takes time. It's not a question of tomorrow or one period of government. Means generational. If we are at the beginning of training the people, you can realize that after 20 years of the democracy in Latin America, a lot of good trained people, engineers, lawyers, intellectual people, are traveling to other countries to support and to give our knowledge to some other countries. Even in the current law you are discussing in the Congress about migration is giving the opportunity to the people who is trained and educated, because there are a lot of people from Latin America and some other countries migrating to United States, and it's going to be good for United States to maintain the brains of some other countries in United States. And it's maybe one of the most important challenges in Latin America. Educating people for the new kind of development or for the new era. But for you, well, it's better to have the people educating if they are going to live in the United States, because they are going to respect the law and to be good people, good working people in favor of the system of the United States. Then it's good for us, good for our people, but it's good for the system in the United States to take that opportunity, because they are going to become good citizens in the near future. Then for us, it's the real challenge. We have to educate the people and to change the culture to integrate them to this new development, a new era we are living at this moment.
One more question. Here, please. She's been raising the hand since the beginning.
Yes, first of all, thank you, Presidente, for Fox, Presidente Cerezo, muchas gracias por venir a platicar con nosotros. Thank y'all so much for discussing all these issues with us. You mentioned the violence in Mexico. You've mentioned several things that need to happen and come together for there to be a change in that area. In your estimation and in your knowledge of the leaders of the countries that surround Mexico, what time period would you put on that for those things to come about, for there to be a significant change in the situation in Mexico?
President.
So specifically for violence? Yes. Yeah, well, my choice is legalization, and I'm an active promoter of legalization. Prohibitions don't work. No prohibition has worked sufficient time to remain. And we must move from prohibition to regulation. We must move from illegality and crime to legalization. I think has very strong ethical reasons. Government do not have the right to intervene in my thinking or my conscience or my decision as long as I don't affect third parties. This nation 100 years ago worked like that until the prohibition of alcohol was eradicated. Peace came back to that region of the United States. And today, maybe the last remaining prohibition of any is drugs, because all the rest now is legalized. Abortion, alcohol consumption, other drugs consumption, marriage between persons of the same sex. And at the very end, the key issue is freedom, is to rely on the fact that we were created free as that we can go against God, we can sin against God, but He respects our freedom. So freedom with a responsibility, to me, is the way to get out of the trap where we are in Mexico. And one message to this nation: if this nation wants to keep consuming drugs, fine, but hold them and cut them in the border yourselves, because giving that work, that challenge, and that task to Mexico is causing death and blood everywhere and every day. 40 Mexicans, young kids, 15, 25-year-olds die each day in Mexico, are killed. So we have to get out of this trap. And that's why I'm working in California, I'm working in Colorado, I'm working in Seattle and in the state of Washington, so that this nation keeps on the pace of moving towards legalization. 22 states now have approved for medical use. 2 have approved for recreational, or I would rather say for responsible use. And Uruguay moved ahead. Holland, Portugal have legalized since over 10 years ago, and everything runs well there. It's not true that kids go crazy. I understand mothers that worry about their kids, but if you worry about your kids, you have educated them at home and in school, and educate them in the use or their free will and decisions with responsibility. Because otherwise the kids are subject to be taken to jail, subject to be dying in a crime like it happens in Mexico every day. So my choice is, let's move towards legalization.
And just one comment. I remember in my country, after the coup d'etat against the President Arbenz, communism was a prohibited ideology in our country. I don't know why, but it's maybe because the Cold War, and maybe because they wanted to make a revolution and change the system, something like that. But what happens, they went to war. They went to fight against the prohibition. And we had 36 years in war, under war. And then I arrived to the government, and in agreement with some other presidents, the other presidents of Central America, decided we change our approach. We are going to open mind, and we are going to talk about what they want, what they can do, what they want to do. And we signed the peace agreement, permit they participate in politics. We take out of the constitutions the prohibition of that ideology, and the ideology finished, and the confrontation also. Then my point, like I said before, is, well, we have to discuss some other ways to resolve the problem. It's not a question of legalize or permit that everybody do everything, even in alcohol, with alcohol. You permit the people to drink some drinks, but prohibit if they are driving or doing something that could be dangerous for other people. We can regulate the things. The thing is, we have to discuss about the problem, not just have a confrontation solution, because after the war against the war is 1970, something like that. Well, we have 4 years without solutions. Then, well, open the discussion. Depenalize the discussion about the drugs, about the things, and then we are going to find the solution to get less violence and more peaceful ways to resolve the problems.
We respond to information. We respond to understanding things. Comparing with this little story about communism when it was forbidden, and that's caused more people to find out what it was all about. In Garden of Eden, there was this forbidden apple. And that forbidden apple is the one that Adam and Eve went for. What about if they had been told, don't eat this apple because it has worms. It's not good to your health. Maybe they would not have eaten the apple.
Well, I'm so glad that President Vicente Fox and President Cerezo, obviously the series must continue, and I'm glad that we're ending on such a non-controversial note today. It's wonderful. I would like to acknowledge, please, Martita Sagún de Fox, President Fox's wife is here, and she is she made him president. I'm a witness to that. If anyone made him president, she did, and she is a great speaker also. We need to have her here at TCU Provost. Olinda Salguero, I want to mention you that you have the foundation of Esquipulas and run it for President Cerezo. Anyone interested in their foundation, please let her know. Carlita Perez Asensio, she works for President Vicente Fox, and she works so hard to make this happen. I want to mention her. I'd already mentioned Julie, John Cox, thank you again so much, and Pilar, Candia Juarez, and all the group of volunteers. I wouldn't be here. Guanajuato and Fort Worth would not be here if it hadn't been for my parents, and my mother and father are here. My mother is right there, a TCU graduate, wave your hand. She went down to San Miguel de Allende a few years ago to study Spanish and art. Was it a TCU program or all on your own, I think? And met my father, a law student, and I'm very grateful to you. I'm just overjoyed by the success of the 6 presidents that we've had here. President Fox, I don't know what to say, pero muchísimas gracias, señor Presidente Fox y Presidente Cerezo.
De nada, muy bien. Muchas gracias.